under fading skies. Tattered flags waving dreams in our eyes. The crowds roar like a storm on the wind. We're the underdogs fighting again.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Stateside Footy. It is, Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening, something around there. Jesus Christ, the last 4 or 5 days have been absolute batshit crazy, and of course, last night couldn't get on because the power was out here in mid-Michigan, but here we are today. The U.S. men's national team March roster has been released. Mauricio Pochettino has put pen to paper and has brought in 27 players to face Belgium and Portugal at the end of this month. And quite honestly, it's essentially what I believe is like the World Cup roster minus like 3 players. It is what it is, right? For those that were tuning in or those that were expecting something a little bit different, I hate to burst your bubble, but this really is, I guess you can say, what is the dress rehearsal to what we're probably going to see in May when the World Cup roster gets announced. And of course, when everything kicks off in June, this is probably going to be the nuts and bolts of what you're going to see for that World Cup roster. And for those that, we're expecting less Major League Soccer players, more Major League Soccer players, whatever the case may be. For the most part, Mauricio Pochettino has been in charge now for a little over a year and a half. And he's whittled it down to 26 players that he feels he can trust to go deep into the World Cup. And we're going to get into it. Before we do, please do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and also hit the notification bells. And if you guys are tuning in on X, I want to say thank you. And of course, if you guys are tuning in on TikTok Live, I also want to say thank you as well, too. And if you're so inclined, the link is in that description. So if you want to head over to YouTube and show your boy some love, you're more than willing to do that. I am not going to argue with any single one of you. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it. As I mentioned, Mauricio Pochettino has named 27 players to the March roster. And for the most part, it's pretty much cut and dry. Now, I should say that before we get into it, let's go ahead and just bring up some names that are missing due to injury, or they're back but they're still recovering and may or may not be ready for the March window. And of course, Haji Wright is out, and that's a little bit of a kick to the nuts right there, because Haji Wright was the February Player of the Month for the championship, and it looked like he was primed and ready to come into this camp, so he is not available. Diego Luna is also not available for this March camp. Tyler Adams is back, but of course he's working his way back. And of course, Serginho Dest is out with a hamstring injury, so those 4 are not going to be available. And I would probably assume that come the mid-May, late May World Cup roster announcement, I would probably assume that all 4 of these names will probably be on that roster. More or less, I would probably assume they would be. All right. So we begin talking a little bit about the goalkeepers, and this one was quite an interesting one. It's not the first time we've seen this, but Mauricio Pochettino has named 4 goalkeepers to this roster. And for those that are, asking, is this a common, something that's common? The answer is no, it's not really common. But for Mauricio Pochettino, he's done it on a few occasions in his tenure, bringing in 4 keepers. And it almost seemed like it was a moot point because when he has brought in 4 keepers, we've only seen 1 keeper start twice. And of course, that was Matt Freese. Matt Freese comes in as the number 1 with Matt Turner, number 2. Chris Brady of the Chicago Fire is the 3rd. And then Roman Salentano of FC Cincinnati also gets called in. And from my estimation, here's the thing. Mauricio Pochettino has been in charge for well over a year and a half now, and he has seen all 4 of these goalkeepers extensively. He knows their strengths. He knows their weaknesses. He knows exactly what they can do, what they can't do, whatever. There is no need to bring in four goalkeepers if you already know exactly what they can actually offer you. So why do you bring in 4 goalkeepers? Because you're probably not 100% certain who your number 1 is. And so there still might be a question of competition when it comes to your goalkeeper. We have essentially seen Matt Freese be the starter since the Gold Cup. Okay, fair. And so most people just assume that he's going to be goalkeeper 1. But that being said, why bring in 4? Why burn an extra roster spot when you have a guy like Alex Dejas, who's absolutely tearing it up right now in Liga MX, who has been in camp before, who has proven that he can actually score at this level. So from that standpoint, why would you burn a roster spot? Well, because for the most part, maybe there is a lot of uncertainty with who your number 1 keeper is going to be. And so from that standpoint, this is, this week is the last look to make sure, 100% make sure. And then maybe you can make a decision going into the World Cup roster announcement that you know exactly what your pecking order, who your number 1 is, 100%, who your number 2 is going to be 100%. And that's the only thing that I can think of why you would bring 4 goalkeepers in yet again. Because outside of that, man, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Especially when you consider the injuries that this team is currently dealing with. So from that standpoint, man, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. As of right now, I have Matt Freese as number 1, without a doubt. So yeah, it's interesting, right? Because there is a comment here in the TikTok that says Pulisic just broke his leg training with AC Milan. I am not seeing that, and I will also keep an eye on that as well too, because as of right now, there is absolutely no news on Christian Pulisic breaking his leg. But if I hear it, I will definitely pass that along. So as of right now, when it comes to the goalkeepers, that's my read on the 4 goalkeepers. And again, it just makes absolutely no sense to burn a roster spot on a goalkeeper especially Roman Celentano. Like, don't get me wrong, fantastic Major League Soccer goalkeeper, does a very good job. Not exactly a international level goalkeeper, not necessarily on that level. Yet he's in this camp, right? So again, it just says to me that they're not 100% decided on who their number 1 is. These are the 4 best, and this is an opportunity for yet more competition, whether that's in training, to get into the matches or, play on the field. And this might be their last final look at the 4 best that they feel like are going to be able to do a job for them. And, as of right now, I don't see Matt Freese being unsettled as goalkeeper 1. As a matter of fact, I would be surprised if we saw anybody but Matt Freese start these 2 matches. And so from that standpoint, it makes absolutely no sense why there's 4 goalkeepers, but it is what it is. Let's turn into the defensive side of the defensive side now. And it looks like our center backs for this one are Mark McKenzie, Tim Reams, Chris Richards, Miles Robinson, and Austin Trusty. It looks like the wing backs on the left side are going to be Anthony Robinson and Max Arfson, and it looks like the right backs or the right wing backs are probably going to be Alex Freeman and Joe Scally. And of course, I was the one that was essentially saying Joe Scally is most likely going to be a part of this camp. We saw him last camp, and essentially what his role has been since the coaching change at Borussia Mönchengladbach. He has essentially gone from a right back to the right side of the back 3 for Borussia Mönchengladbach. So he's actually gotten a lot of experience at that position over the course of the last few months in the Bundesliga. He's been okay. Has he played great? At times. Has he not played great? Yes, at times, but for the most part, he does have that type of experience where it's interchangeable. And especially if you're going to go formation, depending on the opponent, and you choose to play a back 4, and you need to be a little bit more defensive, then you also have a guy like Joe Scally who can certainly play that role if you need it as well too. There also is the adage, the fact that Timmy Way is on this roster as well too. Now he's listed as a forward, but that being said, he does play right wing back for Olympique Marseille. So from that standpoint, there's a good possibility you have 3, at the very most 2 at the right side. But as it reads right now, it looks like Alex Freeman looks to be a starter on that right side. Who knows? But that being said, you also have the added advantage of the fact that Timmy Way is on this roster. And so from that standpoint, man, you would probably think that, if it were me, I'd probably start Timmy Way at that position on the opposite side of Anthony Robinson, especially for the speed factor, the fact that he can actually hold to the touchline, provide that whip, attack, track back. He does everything well. But he also crashes boxes as well from the wing, and he does it beautifully. Can provide goals and assists as well too. So from that standpoint, it even though that Serginho Dest is out, it almost reads like this is probably going to be a strength for the United States. As for the center back positions, we heard essentially for about a week and a half now that Noah Kai Banks was not going to be a part of this March roster. Sure enough, not a part of the March roster, which is something that I expected. Now, I did want to touch a little bit on this, is the fact that I don't know what to read from Noah Kai Banks, because it was like, a year ago where he made these comments about wanting to represent the United States, about wanting to win trophies with the U.S. And now a year later, it's like, I don't want to let a World Cup decide my future. So what's changed? What's changed? Well, the September window where he was called into camp only to sit behind a dude like Miles Robinson. Yeah, that probably had some effect on it. But I would probably assume that the DFB, has been in his ear, and they're laying out a plan where it's, I guess a streamlined process into the German first team. And maybe that does feel like it's a more attractable option than the United States. For me, I don't know, man. It reads like a leverage play. Maybe he's looking for something because he sees the center back pool for the United States, and he understands that he's an incredibly talented player playing for a mid-table Bundesliga team. And now all of a sudden he's got the attention of some of the biggest clubs in the world. And so from that standpoint, maybe it's a leverage play saying, well, you know what? Yeah, I would like to play in the World Cup, and I want to play for the World Cup of the United States, but I also want to start. And no national team is going to give those type of guarantees. Certainly not the United States. This isn't 1997. It's not going to happen that way, right? And when you look at the pool, there's a good case that if he came in and actually competed, he probably does get a starting spot. But that being said, the last thing he wants to do is commit, sit behind somebody that he feels that he's better than, and then in a few months, Pochettino leaves, and all of a sudden now you have a new head coach who probably has a group of players that he potentially has in mind, and now you have no idea how it's going to play out. Or he's certainly not going to get that from the Germans either. But that being said, it's like, if you're in his seat, maybe Germany feels like it's a better fit for him. Whatever. That being said, he's not here. And for this particular window, the idea of Tim Ream in this back three does not sit well with me at all. I got to be perfectly honest with you. I'd be more inclined to actually start Austin Trusty over Tim Ream at this stage. But you do have Richards and you do have McKenzie who are starters. And if you want to play McKenzie on the left side of the back three, which is what he does for Toulouse, I'm okay with that. Richards in the center position, and then you do have the option of playing, an Alex Freeman or a Joe Scally in that position. Me personally, Miles Robinson's not getting on the pitch at all. Not against Belgium and Portugal. You cannot afford to make that back unit weaker by playing a guy like Miles Robinson. I understand he's on the roster, and the last time we saw him, I think that might have been the October window where he played decent. But it's a different level at this stage, right? Now you're not going up against Australia, Ecuador. You're going up against, you're essentially going against some of the strongest teams in Europe, and you actually have to have, a strong 11 out there. And so from that standpoint, this is where a guy like Timmy Wade actually does come in handy, because if you want to potentially play an Alex Freeman there, you can. If you want to play a Joe Scally there, you're going to have a little bit more cover. And so from that standpoint, it would be nice if we actually had a Noah Banks in this position. I'm not going to lie. It probably would. But we do have cover at that position. So from that standpoint, the defense, the defense is pretty, it's pretty straightforward. I wasn't surprised, by the way, that Max Arfston made this team. He has essentially been, with Jedi out for a good portion of 2025, he has been that starting left wing back. He's been the starting left wing back, and he's played very good at times. At other times, he's been exposed. But that being said, he actually got 14 caps over 2025. And he's he's developed into a player that a guy like Mauricio Pochettino absolutely loves. He does a number of things well, especially holding with and pushing forward. He's provided a few assists from that position. And apparently, Pochettino trusts him. Me personally, this is where John Tolkien potentially comes into play. I thought John Tolkien was better suited for the formation change, just considering he plays that position for Holstein Kiel. Yes, his play has been inconsistent in the second Bundesliga. But that being said, when you're looking at Max Arfston, he's more of a winger, not necessarily a wing back. And you probably want to play somebody that, plays it day in and day out, but it is what it is. Max Arfston is back. And at this stage, considering we do have Anthony Robinson, he's going to be, a late substitution type player. And it is what it is. Turning to the midfield, Sebastian Berhalter makes the club, which is not at all a surprise. I think from I think from the standpoint of what he does and what his strengths are, being a set piece specialist, somebody that can come in the 80th minute, and especially if there's a late foul, having a guy who can play a ball in, who's pinpoint accurate from that standpoint, I understand it. What he gives you from the field of play at this high of an international level, it's just something we don't know, because we really haven't seen it. We've seen him in the Gold Cup, and we've seen him against a little bit better talent in the November window. Excuse me, in the fall windows, but we haven't seen him on this type of level, and so it's the unknown of, will he be able to hold up against that type of pressure? Johnny Cardoso comes back in. which I'm happy to see. Johnny, for me, this is a make or break window. He was definitely worthy of being here, 100%. Without a doubt, he's been worthy of it. His play has been pretty decent with Atletico Madrid. Now, granted, the last time we saw Johnny in the pre-Gold Cup warm-up matches, I think it was Switzerland and Turkey, was not a good look for him. And up to this point, he's been essentially hit or miss in the U.S. shirt. But again, respect where respect is given, and Johnny Cardoso definitely deserves to be here. The same with Aiden Morris. He has been one of Middlesbrough's best players all season, and it's not just this season. It dates back to last year as well too. The interesting thing about Aiden Morris is, when it comes to Middlesbrough, Hayden Hackney is the guy that gets all the love for Middlesbrough in that midfield. And I guess whatever, rightfully so. But the engine of that team is Aiden Morris, and he has been superb, absolutely superb. I mean, if anybody really deserves to be on this team, it's Aiden Morris. His play has certainly warranted it. Gio Reyna's back, not a shock. Tanner Tessman is back, and here's the interesting too. When you were talking about defense as well too, Tanner Tessman is also starting to get looks at center back for Olympic Lyon as well too, and so that is also something worth considering as well too. When you look at it, no Tyler Adams, but we still have cover at that holding midfield play. There's four of them. Tessman, Cardoso, Morris, and Christian Roldan. And of course, that is also shouldn't be a surprise considering, he gets called into the September friendlies off the back of an excellent Leagues Cup of last season. And of course, that was highlighted by that play against Leo Messi in that Leagues Cup final. He's been good, not great, but he's also not been a liability for the U.S. men's national team. Most importantly, when you talk about Christian Roldan, he's a winner. He's won every single goddamn trophy there is to win in the United States, whether that is the CONCACAF Champions League, MLS Cups, U.S. Open Cups, Leagues Cup. He's one of all. And so from that standpoint, a 31-year-old, a veteran, a leader, that was always going to be something that was going to be appealing to a guy like Mauricio Pochettino. And the fact that he's got sway in that locker room as well, too. I think that is, I think when it comes to when it comes to a World Cup roster, man, you always need glue guys in that dressing room. Guys that have a tendency to call out bullshit when it needed, but it also has the ability to bring guys together. Roldan is one of those type of guys. I know these kids these days, they call them vibe guys, the eyes and vibes of the locker room. Malik Tillman is here as well too. Gio Reyna is back as well too, and that's not a surprise to me either, because the last time we saw Gio Reyna in a U.S. shirt, he was absolutely fantastic. And Mauricio Pochettino has a tendency to reward guys. There are instances where if you're not playing, you're probably not going to get called in. And that certainly was the case last time we saw Gio Reyna heading into the November window. Wasn't necessarily playing, but there was a need. They brought him in and he performed. And from that standpoint, Mauricio Pochettino is the type of guy that will reward players. So from that standpoint, not a shocker to see Gio Reyna here. I was asked, I think I was asked today about Yunus Musa, and it's like, dude, outside of like the beginning of March where he had like back-to-back games where he scored a goal, unfortunately that was the outlier. In the 4 matches since then, not really, hasn't necessarily really done a lot. Like Yunus Musa was the type of guy that was going to be a long shot at best. And I certainly didn't think he was going to make the March roster. Let's see. Ray Evans Latan said it's crazy how he had to pay $5,000 a month for his kids to play. Oh, I see. Is this the pay to play thing? Okay. I think the pay to play thing is going on in the TikTok chat. Let's turn to forwards here. We have Brendan Aronson again, not a shocker. And we have Timmy Way is listed as a forward. Christian Pulisic, obviously, Captain America is going to be here. The three strikers shouldn't be a shock. Flo Balogun, who currently is our best striker at the moment, in terms of production and just in form, he currently is 100% our best striker, and he's in his best form at the right time as well too. And when you think about Belgium and Portugal, you're going to need that absolute killer at the, in that box, playing off a shoulder, using it, using his position to get in a position to absolutely do his job. It's absolutely dude, he is just phenomenal right now with Monaco. Ricardo Pepi is in camp as well too, and I like the fact that Pepi is back. There was some thought that he might not be ready for this one, but certainly he not only has he returned, but he's been lighting the Eredivisie on fire as well too. And Patrick Agyemang gets called in because of Haji Wright's injury. And Agyemang, he was absolutely ripping it up in January into February. Cooled off a little bit, but that being said, when you look at the Caps in 2025, Patrick Agyemang was mostly a part of every single window. And I think that, from that standpoint, Mauricio Pochettino absolutely loves himself some Patrick Agyemang. And I'll give it to Patty, man. I was wondering whether or not he was going to be able to transition to the championship. And sure enough, he has actually done a pretty good job this season. Let's see. We have JV Flores 97 who says, didn't Pepe sign with Fulham? No, they didn't. And there was a lot of chatter about the actual fee. And it turns out, I think the number of 33 million or 35 million was wrong. It was 26 or 27 that PSV turned down. That deal is probably going to most likely start back up in the summer. I wouldn't be surprised if Pepe's in the Premier League next season. So overall, when I look at this roster, it's actually not a bad roster. It's not. It's actually a pretty strong roster. A roster that's capable of winning games. And when I look at this, and when I look at the form that this team had shown toward the back end of 2025. It's another opportunity to continue on that type of that momentum that this team absolutely needs to get ready for the World Cup. How I see this lining up, game one against Belgium, it probably starts with Matt Freese in goal. I would probably imagine that Pochettino is going to play Ream on the left, Richards through the center, and McKenzie to the right. Anthony Robinson as a left wing back, and I would probably assume that it's going to be Timmy Weah on the right-hand side. I think Poch is probably going to experiment that with at least once in this window. A midfield two of, I'm probably going to say it's going to be Tanner Tessman and Johnny Cardoso. The two underneath forwards will be Pulisic and McKennie, and up top will be Flo Balogun. That would probably be my guess for the starting 11 opening up against Belgium, and then there's going to be some variation in that second game against Portugal. But that being said, I think this is pretty much what you're going to see for the World Cup roster. Bear in mind three names, because I do believe that Haji Wright, I actually barring four names, because I actually think all four of these guys who are out this window, Wright, Luna, Adams, and Dest will be on the World Cup roster. So I would probably assume that depending on how things roll in this camp, for instance, if Johnny Cardoso doesn't have the same type of window that Gio Reyna had last November, and what we see from Johnny is the same thing we saw pre-Gold Cup, I can see a scenario where he gets dropped and Tyler Adams comes in. I can also see a scenario where Dest comes in and maybe Scally goes out. Or maybe Miles Robinson goes out. If you want to keep Scally as a center back option, I can see that happening. Haji Wright comes back in for Ajameng, and then Luna comes in at some point. For a guy like maybe Sebastian Berhalter, because you do have Christian Pulisic who can take free kicks and who's actually a pretty good free kick taker. So there's going to be a cost a cost benefit analysis depending on exactly who is going to be the guy that Pochettino trusts more, right? Because this isn't just about your starting 11. It's also about your deep bench as well, too. So you're talking 22 through 26, right? When you're looking down there in the 80th minute and you're looking for somebody to come off the bench to actually make a play for you, potentially get yourself back in the game. And you're kind of looking down there and it's like, oh, dude, I got Haji Wright or I got Sebastian Berhalter. But I also have Christian Pulisic on the pitch as well, too. So from that standpoint, I already have a guy who can take a free kick. But if I want to go with 2 strikers, or if I want to go damn near 3 strikers, you have a Haji Wright at the back end of your bench. Or if you need a dude that is going to bust his ass, you do have Brendan Aronson, but you also potentially have a guy like Diego Luna as well, too. Let's see. Do we have a pure 9 though? Yeah, we do have a pure 9. His name is Flo Balogun. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, we have Ace. Oh, you don't need to apologize, Ace. There's no apology needed, my friend. So, my friend, what do you think of the March roster? Let me know. One of the things that did surprise me was the exclusion of a guy like Alex Zendejas, who that was the only surprise, really. Like, I don't think it's a snub. I don't think that's the right word to say it. Because, kind of like Yunus Musa, he was kind of like a bubble player. But as somebody that tracks Zendejas a lot, when he's on the pitch, that dude is an automatic goal or assist. And I get it. He applies his trade in Liga MX, and it's not the same Liga MX as it was 20 years ago. 25 years ago. There's no promotion relegation. They don't scout and develop the same way. They ship in a lot of Colombian and Argentinian players, and not like good young Argentinian players. It's generally the players that have kind of aged out. And so from that standpoint, that is, there's a lot of those guys in the league. And for the most part, because the money is there, they try to convince young players to stay. I get it. And so from a league standpoint, it's not as strong as it was. And so from that standpoint, it's kind of hard to differentiate where Liga MX is. Me personally, I think it's kind of on the same level as Major League Soccer. Are there some differences that make it a little bit better? Sure, but for the most part, it's like when you see him in head-to-head competition in a tournament like the CONCACAF Champions League, you kind of see a lot of you don't see a wide gap like you used to see between the two leagues. And so for me, it's kind of like on that same level. And, so from that standpoint, I'm kind of looking at it like, is there a lot to read into, Zendejas' production? Yeah. See, here's the thing, Ace. Zendejas was coming back from injury and he's back. And so is this like a Tyler Adams thing where he's back, but maybe he's not up to a full 90? And so maybe this is an opportunity to hold him out so he can get more game time. That's certainly a possibility. That is certainly a possibility. But Zendejas that dude is automatic, man. That dude steps on the field and he plays as a 10 for Club America. And that dude is a goal and assist. That's just what he does. He just scores. The last time we saw him in a U.S. shirt, he scored. A pretty goddamn nice goal as well too. And so from that standpoint, it's like, if that's the theory about, the end of the bench theory, where it's like, if you're looking for a guy who you can trust to potentially do something for you, who utilizes his wits, but also his speeds to, his speed to his advantage to get into advantageous position to potentially put a shot in net, Zendejas is certainly one of those guys. And it's like, I kind of would like to see that at the end of my bench in the World Cup, but shit, I don't know what to tell you. He's not on this one. And so from I guess from a surprise standpoint, maybe that is a little bit of a surprise, because me personally, we don't need 4 goalkeepers. I'm sorry. Yeah, like, we don't need 4 goalkeepers. I would much rather see, Zendejas instead of Roman Zelentano. Me personally, I would like to hear Pochettino's explanation when it comes to 4 goalkeepers. I mean, we've seen it before in windows where it doesn't necessarily matter. You're playing Australia or New Zealand or whatever the case may be, or you're playing Guatemala, or you're playing, you get what I'm saying. It's like you're playing a quality opponent, but is it high in stature? No. So if you want to bring in 4 goalkeepers, to have those guys together and you guys can compete in training, sure. But this is essentially a dress rehearsal for the World Cup, and you're burning roster spots to, for a guy who can now absolutely help you score goals. And by the way, my 3 goalkeepers for this one were Freese, Turner, and Brady. Right? Those were my 3. Sure enough, they're there. And, I'm just looking at it like, man, how could we have utilized that roster spot a little bit better? I know a lot of people will say they'll probably just bring another Major League Soccer player, but it's like that, that conversation to me is played out. I don't give a shit where you play. As long as the roster is balanced and it serves a purpose, I could care less where you play. Ace says it's hard not to call him up. He's pretty good on the ball and also knows how to play against a low block. Thank you. It's going to be interesting to see how many low blocks we're going to see in this March roster, but in this March window. But I understand what you're saying. Me personally, I just think that 4 goalkeepers to me seems like they don't necessarily know for sure who their number 1 is, and so there's still an open competition. But I would think that maybe outside of that right-sided center back position, I think this roster is pretty balanced. I really do. You absolutely have gifted players that know how to that know exactly what they're doing on the ball. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how that midfield too is going to be playing as well too, because since that formation switch against Japan, and since we've seen essentially 2 holding midfielders playing in that role, whether that's Adamson Roldan or whether that's Tessman Roldan, Aiden Tessman, whatever the case may be, we've essentially seen 2 holding midfielders play it. Now, one of them was a little bit more higher up the pitch, almost playing in that box-to-box role. But technically speaking, they're holding midfielders. So is this going to be a situation where Weston McKennie is going to get into that midfield pairing? And he's probably going to be playing that box-to-box, late box crasher type of player, playing a little bit more higher up while that holding midfielder is a little bit more withdrawn. Don't know. Same thing with Christian Roldan, right? When he's on the pitch, how is that going to look? I think, the interesting thing, the deepest position is going to be that 10 position with Christian Pulisic, Malik Tillman, Gio Reyna, and potentially with Weston McKennie, because me personally, those are the four that I'm kind of using in that position. Timmy Weah to me is going to be more of a right wing back player. And the way that things have been playing out lately, with their club careers, right now Weston McKennie is playing as the best U.S. player in the world right now. No disrespect to Christian. Christian is our best player, but who the best player is playing right now is Weston McKennie. And if I'm putting this together, yes, Christian is starting, 100% Christian starting, but playing next to him on the right-hand side underneath Flo Balogun is Weston McKennie. 100%. Let's see. Ace is asking, who am I starting against Belgium? Matt Freese in goal. If it were me, this is me, but do you want who I'm starting or who you think Pochettino's starting? Because if it's Pochettino, then it's going to be Matt Freese, Tim Ream on the left side of the back three, Chris Richards in the center, Mark McKenzie off the right. Anthony Robinson is the left wing back. Probably Alex Freeman at the right wing back, I would assume. Okay, so my opinion, okay, cool, yeah. Matt Freese is starting. I'm having Mark McKenzie starting off the left-hand side. I'm starting Chris Richards in the center position. And on the right-hand side, I'm probably starting with Joe Scally, if I'm being perfectly honest. My midfield pairing is going to be Johnny Cardoso and Tanner Tessman. My wingbacks are going to be Anthony Robinson and Timmy Weah. My 10s are going to be Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie, and then Flo Balogun up top. Without a doubt. I'm going to play players where they're actually playing for their club teams. And I'll start with that. I would like to see what Tanner Tessman and Johnny Cardoso could do as a midfield pairing. That is kind of the intrigue for me, those two players. So yeah, guys, let me know how you feel about the March roster. Go ahead and leave a comment in the chat. And, let me know. Well, so here's the thing. Ace. The reason why I would take Joe Scally is because at least he plays at that position for Borussia Mönchengladbach. He has more time in that position than a guy like Alex Freeman. And I don't want Miles Robinson anywhere near my starting 11. I understand he's on the roster, but I don't have him playing at all whatsoever. I also don't have Tim Ream playing either. I understand they're on the roster. But here's the thing. If like Joe Scally looks like he's a little bit in over his water, his head is in over the water, then you do have an Alex Freeman option if you need to bring him in. And you also, if you absolutely need to break glass, you have Miles Robinson. But I'm going to start the dude who at least has played the position in the Bundesliga. Makes sense to me. Round pegs and round holes, my friend. Giggity, giggity. I had no choice. I had to do it. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Let me know how you feel about the roster. Let me know what your starting 11 is for the opener of this March window. By the way, all games are going to be live here on Stateside Footy. I'm going to be doing the live streams for both. So that's going to be absolutely awesome. And yeah, just let me know exactly how you feel it. If there's any snubs that you feel, let me know. Of course, man, make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons and also hit the notification bell as well, too, so you don't miss out on any upcoming stateside footy content. And again, both of these matches will be live streamed here on Stateside Footy because that's just what we do. And of course, I'm going to have a new format for the live streams, and it's going to be kick-ass. I'm looking forward to it. Your boy figured out how to use OBS. That's just all I'm going to say. I got some overlays. It's going to be sick. It's actually going to look like somewhat of a broadcast. So yeah, man, it's going to be cool. It's going to have a running clock and everything, man. It's going to be sick. So make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank my guy, Ace Lionel. Let's see. And everybody there in the TikTok chat as well, too. So it's been fun, man. It's been fun. You guys have been great. I will see you again on Friday. And also this weekend as well, too, as I believe there's going to be a couple live streams. We have the MLS live stream, and, of course, we have Spurs versus Forest for those that are interested in that, too. So it should be fun. That's going to do it for me, guys. Again, let me know how you guys feel about everything. Let me know your snubs. Let me know what you think about the roster. Leave it all in the chat, guys. And, of course, I'll be getting back to you guys as I always do. Take care, guys. Good night.
Rusted goalposts under fading skies.